And then while I'm sending this quick note out, do we want to go ahead and do some a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today? So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This is our first learning community call for WISE Pathways implementation. So today we will be taking a deep dive into the facilitator role, into the coordinator role, reviewing what is the role of each, how you might be able to think about that. And then for folks who are in implementation, want to hear how you're thinking about it. And for those who are in the planning stages, want to hear about how you're thinking about it. So my name, I think you all know me, but my name is Keith Ruich. I am the Executive Director of HHW Ohio. HHW created this program with support from the Department of Labor about 10 years ago, and have been helping communities here in Ohio. And then we've had a few communities nationwide implement WISE Pathways. So always excited to see what it looks like. So sorry, give me one moment while I'm finish up this email to see if folks are able to join. And then I'll pull up my slide deck and we can go ahead and get started. Okay. You can talk amongst yourselves. I can give you a topic.
How about if we do some introductions? I don't think Amelia is familiar with the folks at Shani, or maybe she is.
Yeah, or I can here. I have an introduction slide that I can pull up here real quick. So let me just share my screen. There we go. Trying. There we go. All right, are you seeing the slideshow? Hopefully.
Yep.
All right. Next, just a little bit about HHW. Introductions. So if we could go around, please share your name, your role, what organization you're coming from. What is the status of your WISE Pathways program? So are you in pre-launch, in the planning phase? Are you piloting your first program, or maybe you learned some things from your first program and now you're implementing some changes? Or would you say that your program is up and running and running smooth? And then just one thing that you would hope to learn from today's session. So Bernie, do you want to go first? I'm just going around who's on my screen.
Hi, Bernie Goski, Lorain County Community College, and I'm kind of the lead team for WISE Pathways, and trying to encourage others across the state to adopt this program as a way to engage more women in non-traditional careers such as manufacturing, IT, supply chain, construction, and try to solve some of the talent issues felt by the industry.
Great. And then Jack, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Jack Everson. I'm the Employer Engagement Coordinator for Shawnee State for the Scaling Apprenticeships Grant, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Best Ohio Industry Sector Partnership. We're in pre-launch right now, so very close to pre-launch. We're learning to divvy down the roles and responsibilities of the people that coordinate the program and get that refined before we launch. So.
Great, thank you. And then Amelia, you're next.
Hey, I'm Amelia Taggart with Eastern Gateway Community College. We are still in our early stages. With the help of Bernie and Lorraine, we were actually able to mirror their LMS system that they put the WISE Pathway slide deck into. So we now have that in our Canvas program. So our goal is to hopefully in the fall offer that as a 1 credit hour elective to some of the women who are either thinking or going to be in our trades. And then we also piloted a younger girls program this school year, which will wrap up on Thursday. They will get to see manufacturing. They have already seen, we've done an electrical program, we've done an additive manufacturing, and a construction. And these are 4th grade girls.
Excellent.
What do I hope to learn from today? Anything I can, just to see what other people are doing. You know, we have not put on a full program. You know, we've had conversations about maybe having someone come in to facilitate the first one so we can see how it runs, and then maybe patterning that and getting a facilitator of our own.
Okay, excellent. Angie, you're next.
Hi, I'm Angie Didway. I'm the Director of Workforce Development for Shawnee State University. Jack's already given the status of our WISE pathways, and my big takeaway from today, hopefully, is to define how we want to post the position for our WISE pathways coordinator.
Excellent. And then we'll go Amanda, and then we can close out with Alicia.
Hi, I'm Amanda Hedrick. I'm the Director of Campus Partnerships in the Center for Lifelong Learning at Shawnee State University. I learned about that LMS program that you guys were using with WISE Pathways, and so I had them create a Blackboard site. So it's up and running and it's ready to load that content. So I'm excited to talk more about that later. But yeah, we're pre-launch and we're just really excited to learn everything that we can so that we have a successful program.
Excellent. And then Alicia.
Hi, I'm Alicia Gorski. I work at Lorain County with Bernie. She's kind of already told you the status of our program, and I'm just sort of helping to recruit women and get this kicked off with a few different areas. We are hoping to launch WISE as an after-school program for the high schoolers, as well as working with some local domestic violence shelters to give them some alternatives and get them some experience in the career field. So outside of college, we're trying to dig into a few of the surrounding areas as well. So I also help with advertisement and recruitment activities like having the LMS system ready and available with all of the free resources there as well.
Great, thank you. Very excited for everyone to be here. And again, I'm Casey. I'm the Executive Director of HHW Ohio. We are not launching a WISE Pathways program, but we are here to support you in your journey and are here as a resource if you need us. All right. So we can just go ahead and dive in here. So when we're thinking about it, there are the 2 key implementation roles that are usually fulfilled by the sort of anchor of a WISE Pathways program. There's a coordinator and there's a facilitator. These roles can be played by one person or they can be played by separate folks. And we sort of have a high level overview of what those are. So the coordinator tasks, this is really the person who puts the program together, organizes the partners, identifies the partners, figures out the schedule, thinks through, the flow of the curriculum. We have the modules available, but works with the industry partners to contextualize the curriculum to your local, economy, thinking about, what are those in-demand jobs in your region. So coordinator tasks are usually to recruit and enroll participants, to acquire program supplies if you need them, identify and secure a space, identify and engage employers and community partners, coordinate the scheduling of speakers, coordinate the next steps in supportive services, collect, review, and report on data, and then incorporate programmatic adjustments. So as we think about the coordinator role, it really is, they set the container for the program. differs a little bit from the facilitator. You will see here the facilitator tasks are much more day of tasks. So they will, work with a coordinator if they're different people to print, prepare, and gather session materials. They might be the presenter for content on a variety of career readiness topics. However, as we will see, we have an example of how Connexus is running this. The facilitator doesn't always have to be that presenter. They can be the person who opens a session, welcomes the participants into the program, sort of gives an overview of the agenda, the objectives of that day's session, and then would hand it off to a speaker who might be presenting, industry related content, might be presenting on job readiness content, but the facilitator can step into that presenter role as needed. So it's really looking at what is available within your community and how you want to put together your program. The facilitator will, after the session, facilitate group discussions, and if there is a hands-on activity, the facilitator is going to be sort of the person who would move that along. For site visits, the facilitator would be the one to sort of get everyone onto the transportation, talk about where they were going, and sort of reviewing, what the objectives of that activity would be, and then they coordinate with guest speakers and facilitators. So again, handing off, introducing them, say, we have Bernie Goski here from Lorain County Community College. She is an expert on, enrollment, and she's going to be here to help you get enrolled today. And then you would say, Bernie, please take it away. So that's sort of the facilitator's role that we've seen. And so I want to share what the Connexus and the Well are doing. I know that this is very small. I'm about to pull up the actual spreadsheet for their program plan. And so let me exit out of this right now and pull this up here. So here is a copy of their curriculum outline for their most recent cohort that they ran. And you will see here, they have identified who the presenter or the facilitator is for each one of these sessions. So,
Casey, will you be sending us these slides?
Yes, yep.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to make this a lot bigger so that you can see it too. So, they have sort of laid out their curriculum for each of their sessions, dates, what are the topics, how many hours, who is the provider. And so that's going to be who is the community-based organization who's sort of connecting with that, and then who's the presenter or the facilitator. So we have, Jenny, who I think most of you, if all of you don't know, she is the leader at Connexus. So she was the welcomer, and then she would have Brenda from the Well talk about career plans, curriculum, work today. And the Well is who Connexus is running their program in partnership with. It's a CDC that has programming for the women who are in their sort of housing, the housing that they are managing. And so you'll see here they sort of pass it off, but then they identify, okay, so Her Beautiful Mind, that is a community-based organization that focuses on mental health. And so it would be that person here. So Brenda opens some presentation, but then it's Her Beautiful Mind. Project Learn. Then here, when we get into manufacturing, we see that we have different representatives from manufacturing companies coming in and talking about safety, talking about manufacturing, what that looks like. Amy Curtis, Bailey, Kelly, these are their role model speakers. Math, they worked with Project Learn. They did a session on introduction to Ohio Means Jobs. So you can see where they went through and they thought very much about what is the topic of each session, and then organize speakers to come in and actually provide the content. And this is both for the sort of job readiness or soft skill development pieces, some of the other contextualized pieces, like they had an employment lawyer come in and talk about sexual harassment and equal opportunity employment, right? So they acknowledge that they are not legal experts, but they looked into their community and found an employment law firm that would come in and be willing to speak. The same with their industry partners. The industry partners were actually the ones delivering the industry related content rather than the Connexus. So Jenny's role was just to open the sessions, welcome everyone, and then to sort of, make sure that day of that the session sort of flowed according to schedule. So that's how one program has operated. This way, you're able to connect your participants with a lot of different resources within the community. You're able to let community experts be community experts. At WISE, we want to very much leverage what's already happening within the community and not duplicate any work, right? It's not to supplant anything that's happening, but to connect participants to the work that is already happening. But if you're having trouble, like maybe you can't find someone who's an expert on resume, right, writing. We do have the curriculum prepared. We do have facilitator guides available, and so as needed, the facilitator can step in and be the presenter for that content. So it really is about how you want to put together your project, who are the partners that you have at the table, whose expertise do you want to lean on, and then also like think about like who is going to be the best to deliver the message, right? So who's going to be more trusted and who's going to be helping the most. So I'm going to pause there to see, how is this landing? Is this helpful? Is this how you're thinking about running your programs?
I defer to Jack and Amanda.
So I can just hop in real quickly. We are going to be launching a few WISE pilots at Lorain County Community College, and it will be much the same as this. We'll be getting a lot of help from our career services division, and since they're really the experts on resumes, mock interviews, all that stuff, so we don't need to recreate the wheel here. We just need to, and that could be the coordinator role, is like identifying who are your SMEs in the region and pulling them in at the right time, at the right place, we just had a conversation yesterday with Crawford County, and they were hoping to launch their WISE Pathways second cohort in next week. But due to low enrollment numbers, they just found this to be a really busy time of the year for people, and they were trying to do an evening session, and a lot of the parents had softball, track, baseball, they had other commitments in the evening with their kids, so their feedback from that was it wasn't the right thing, the right timing for a spring launch. So their coordinator, who is actually housed at a community-based organization in their region, then had to follow up with the folks that they had arranged to have as presenters and subject matter experts and role model speakers. So that does happen sometimes also when you're hoping to run a program like this, and then you just pivot. So we're hoping to do something in June and again in July, and the real hope is that you get to the point where it's running on a continual basis, where people will rely on it. They'll know about it. There'll be a buzz about it, you know, like I went through this Wise Pathway program. It was so great. It just helped me so much. When's the next one coming? I know that when HHW Ohio used to run the program, they would have info sessions and 200 women would show up, you know, for these info sessions. So, you know, that's the goal, is to get to the point where you're scheduling it in such a way that there's a next step, almost an immediate next step. Because if you're doing something in April and then telling people, well, in August, you're going to be able to enroll for additional training, they're going to be like, I'm going back to McDonald's. What am I going to do? You know, so just having all that kind of planned out, in addition to planning the pre-events and the day of events, having that same person, if you're fortunate enough to have a facilitator or a coordinator position, that same person should also be doing that, the next step coordination too. So.
Yeah, I think thank you for iterating that. Like that next step is critical to the success of the program. And, you know, we also want to make sure that the next step is going to look different for each community, right? And each participant even. So, for example, like Connexus is running this with women who are in, you know, the CDC's managed housing projects or properties. And so they are coming from a very different background than the recent high school grads that Lorain County Community College, or the existing high school students that they're thinking about putting the program together for. And so just thinking about who is your target demographic, if you have one, what might their needs be. So Connexus actually connected many of their participants with Aspire, but not for the GED, for English as a second language class, because they found as they were going through implementation that many of the women were from an immigrant background, and so they needed help with English as a second language. And so being able to identify that need that you have, that your participants have, and being able to connect them with that next step and get them into ESL classes, and then, you know, and then enrolling in additional training will be really helpful, versus if they're recent high school grads and they just don't have a plan, how might you be able to talk to them about, okay, an apprenticeship or a learn and earn opportunity might be the next step for you. If you already have that high school degree, you know, what are you doing next? And just thinking about what is that level of support that different women are going to need, depending on how your program is set up. And then another resource that we want to I want to highlight, I will share my screen again, is we've put together, I can make this bigger, and this will be made available after on this call as well. We have role descriptions, both for the coordinator and for the facilitator. So you will see here the coordinator role is like an entire page long. Oh, wait, I don't know if I'm sharing yet. There we go. So the coordinator role is an entire page long here. Goes in deep about like the different partners that you would want to think through, you know, connecting with. So if you don't have a built-in recruitment pipeline, who might you be partnering with? If you need supportive service partners, these could be community action partnerships, community development corporations, community health organizations. You know, who are those folks? Next Step partners, that's going to be Aspire, credit recovery or alternative high schools, career technical education centers, community colleges, you know, thinking through who are those folks. And then your content experts. So those could be banks and credit unions for financial literacy, legal aid or employment lawyers for sexual harassment, equal opportunity employment, or Ohio Means Job Centers if you're not, you know, at a community college and you don't have access to a career services department, right? OMJ is a great partner in that. And then you'll see here, the facilitator is the on-site resource during the program sessions, and they hold the room and move the session along. So really, you know, the coordinator can be the facilitator, and the facilitator can be the presenter, but the facilitator doesn't always have to be the presenter. It's a bunch of, I feel like it's one of those math problems where it's like, not all, like, all ducks are birds, but not all birds are ducks, and some birds are geese, but you know, that sort of thing. So and just, you know, think about what your program needs, who the women that you're serving are, what are their anticipated needs as you get into the program. Think about what are their actual needs, and then think about how to connect those resources. All right, so how are we, so is this hopefully a little bit, are we having a little bit more clarity than where we were at the beginning of the call? Is this landing? Are you more confused? Hopefully not, hopefully not. But if you are, want to know that certainly as well.
I think this is very helpful. Thank you.
Right.
And you said those documents will be available to everyone on the call, because that would be nice to have those laid out job roles, so you kind of know people are stepping in, how to facilitate, you know, what their job roles would be.
Yep, absolutely. We'll make these available. They are going to be made available, or they are available currently in our Curia. So a little bit later, we'll talk about some of the resources that are available to you as in implementation. But this is available within our Curio site. And so, you know, Shawnee State or Alicia or Amelia, you know, I know that you're all in planning. Amanda, Angie, and Jack, I know that you're thinking about hiring a coordinator position. Do you want to share a little bit about what you're thinking about with that role, and what considerations are you making?
Well, we're planning to hire someone to work 12 hours a week, part-time. And right now, we don't have money for both a coordinator and a facilitator, but we do have money for an intern. So they could possibly assist with that. For the ones here on campus, you know, Amanda and I are down here and could possibly pitch in with that. Jackson Chillicothe and can possibly pitch in with that. But our thought is that the coordinator would be the one to just handle all the logistics, line up the speakers, line up the food and the child care, and, you know, do all the heavy lifting. But we also are planning to hire childcare providers as well. So we have money in the budget for those things right now. So we'll probably have to combine facilitator in with the coordinator and then supplement with university personnel.
Great, thank you for sharing. Anyone have any questions for Shawnee State about how they're thinking about it, or okay, great. And it's if you have questions that are coming up, please let me know. And then Bernie, is that you on the phone?
Yes, it is. I don't know. Somehow I lost my internet connection. So yes, it's me.
Okay. Amelia, I know that, so you're thinking through, you know, your program still, and thinking through maybe having a facilitator, you know, from another site, or, you know, HHW could certainly fulfill that role as well. But can you talk a little bit about how you're thinking about structuring your program, and share a little bit about more about how maybe you had Wise Girls operate?
So the thought, and now that we have, like I said, that program in our LMS, would kind of be to separate it into two groups. We'd have a student group that would be, you know, done that way as part of a class. Even for people that are already in a trade, maybe just to get that support as well. And then the other portion of that being just the general community. We have, several entities, we have 2 campuses, so different but same demographics. So we have, it's called the Urban Mission. We've been working with them in our Steubenville campus, the Attitude House at our Youngstown campus. Same thing, they do have a lot of immigrant women. So kind of keeping it separated into that already student level and then just general community. When we started looking at this program and kind of reaching out to the high schools, we realized that, with college career prep and everything that these, students are doing, that we were kind of missing the boat, at a high school level. So the thought was like, okay, let's take it down to middle school, and kind of the same thing. It's like, man, you got to get these kids even earlier to promote this. So we actually had a principal who heard me talking about it, and she wanted to know, oh, do you have anything for the younger girls? And I said, no, not right now, but just Casey and I and some conversations, and we thought, okay, let's just see how this runs. So we did, like I said, 4 sessions this school year. They limited the girls to 25 girls, so they had to sign up. Each program we did was hands-on. So the first one, we had about 4 helpers per se, and split the girls into groups of 5, and they did the lemon battery project. So, just something fun, but still understanding circuits. We had our little circuit board there so that they could see a light go on, but then we actually did the lemon batteries with them. And then just for fun, we did a little chemical experiment with the little volcano lemons. So that was fun. They were involved, they were engaged. The second one was a construction program, and we have a local woman-owned construction company. So she came in, we played our game, Name That Tool, where the tools are kind of in this little hidden space. They have to feel around and name what it is. So they got to be schooled on, the correct tool for the right application. And then the project we did, if you guys have ever seen ribbon art or like string art. So they got to pound little nails into a piece of wood with a hammer, and then they got to use the string, and it just happened to be the week of Valentine's Day, so they did little hearts. We did additive manufacturing. We had our 3D printing instructor come in. She also owns her own 3D printing company, so she has lots of really great examples. We work through America Makes with that as well. So we had lots of really good things for them to see. Went over the 7 different types of additive manufacturing. They got to see something printing, and then they got to take little keychains home. So they were excited about that. And then our last one here this week will be manufacturing. So we have a brand new machining lab opening. So they get to come in, they get to see the mills, the lathes running, and then we have an industrial maintenance program. So they'll actually get to, run a small hydraulic unit and see some pneumatics. We really would have liked to do a bigger field trip for the end to one of our local manufacturing. 4th grade girls are a little young to do that with, but working with some community partners and industry to try and make those field trips happen. We do have a women-owned company, and it is a chemical. They make, I guess, compounds of chemicals. So they're more of like a packaging facility, but it is women-owned, and they can see how different, different chemicals go together and how they get packaged and processed out.
That sounds awesome. Very, very exciting. And, we met with Angie, Amanda, Jack yesterday, and we're thinking through, they have childcare that's going to be provided as part of their Wise Pathways program. So thinking through, could we involve with like some STEM programming as part of that childcare? And so if you'd be willing to share, would love to see, how, if you had like activity guides for how you put together some of those things. That could be a resource for other Wise Pathways communities who are thinking about, engaging those younger audiences.
Sure, I can put those together. You guys can see them. Like I said, they were all hands-on projects so that they could feel, touch, be involved and not just looking at some slides.
Yeah, I really like the construction one. What's that tool? Sometimes I think I should maybe participate in that program too after tiling my own kitchen this weekend. So
I play that game a lot. We actually had our grand opening with our building with Youngstown State this past summer, and we played it with legislators, and Senator Brown was there, and we played that game, and you would not believe the amount of responses. And they say, "Oh, it's that thing. It's that thing you do that thing with." But it's funny, there was a game show on, and one of the games they played, it was called Brain Freeze. And your brain literally does freeze. Like, what, a socket wrench is, what a ratchet is, but you just, it all freezes in your mind when you're put on the spot like that. So thing was the #1 answer.
Excellent. Oh, well, very exciting for everyone. Super, interested to see how this all turns out, and can't wait for the results. And so I think, my last few, we have, let me share my screen again. So my goal is, as more Wise Pathways communities come on board, we want to be a resource for you. And then we're working with Lorain County Community College to put together some resources in support of the, I know that a lot of these Wise Pathways programs are being stood up as part of the scaling apprenticeship programs, and thinking through, how to help you meet your grant goals that way. So we have a couple of resources that are available to you. And again, we will share out these links. The first is our Slack community, and hopefully that you are all members of Slack, the Slack community. And so we've put together a channel. There are a bunch of channels here that you can click into. We have announcements, we have general. If you have subject matter experts that you would like to, as you're putting together your curriculum, you can invite them to these channels. We have channels for IT, manufacturing, construction, supply chain, energy, utilities. So, we want this to be as useful of a tool as we can make it. So Slack is a great way to, if you're running a program and you're like, man, like, I want to reach out to my colleagues statewide and figure out, like, okay, we're offering childcare, but like, I want to offer STEM activities. How might I do that? So you could come to Slack and you could, put it out, and then everyone who's in the Slack channel would see like a request, like, hey, like, does anyone have any ideas for how to put together STEM activities for, the children of our participants? We want to make sure that this is like a 2-gen learning opportunity. Or, hey, we ran this program on Saturday instead of Friday nights, and we found out that that worked really well. So if you're thinking about like, different timing, this is what's worked for us. Or if something didn't work, like, hey, we had, I don't know, turkey sandwiches in for our meal, and then it turned out that all of our participants were vegetarians. Make sure that you want to ask, if anyone has any food allergies or preferences before providing food, just as a way to ask for advice, to share resources, experiences, but also share any lessons learned, or just share anything related to Wise, as you go through. If you're taking pictures, if you have video, we want to see that. So hopefully everyone should be within the Slack community, within the Slack channel. So we'll start to ping you to add in some content, and there's even a way, I will send out the email after this as well, where you can forward emails to the channel. So if you're like, hey, we put together our curriculum like connects this, and we wanted to share that just so you all can see how we're putting together our program. And you can just email it right in. You don't have to get up here and upload it or do anything. You can just email it to a channel. So I know that, you know, some workplaces use Slack, some don't. People have different familiarity with it. Once you get into it, it's a pretty useful and easy to navigate tool. It just, you know, like anything, it takes a little bit of muscle memory to get into the habit of using it. And then the other thing I mentioned earlier is Curio. So Curio is like a SharePoint. It's a file storage. And so here you can access, you know, any sort of generic WISE pathways material. So the coordinator role and job description, that's in here. The action plan for putting together the, you know, the program, that's in here. We have, you know, some outreach resources here. So, you know, we have a meeting in a box, we have participant flyers, we have WISE Pathways logos if you want to put the logo on something, you know, we have implementation resources here, you know, a community partner guide, an employer guide. This is where the coordinator role description is, the action plan, participant guide. So we have different resources here available for your use. If you would, you know, like to use them, resource development, you know, we have a WISE Pathways overview. We've put together some boilerplate language for outreach to foundations, just some generic talking points as you're out in the community and want to start to engage around it, just different talking points that you can use. And so these are all collected from previous iterations of WISE Pathways, you know, sort of what we've learned in a generic form. So like you can grab it, these are meant to be grab and go resources that you can just, you know, you can like open this foundation ask, and it's a Word doc, you just download it, and then you can use it as a template for like an outreach letter. So these are all meant for you to take as you need, review what's in there. And then if there's something that you're like, wow, I really wish we had X. I wish we had this resource. I wish we had another resource, and I'm not finding it in Skills Commons, and I'm not finding it on, you know, Curio, and you're asking around Slack, you know, no one else really has it. Let us know. HHW is here to support you, to support your implementation in any way that we can. And so if there's like, you know, hey, we want to put together, we were just talking, a social media plan for outreach and recruitment efforts and to build awareness of our program. Well, like, you know, when WISE was created a decade ago, social media wasn't quite the behemoth that it was. I mean, it was still a thing, but we weren't living our lives exclusively on Facebook at that time. And so, you know, it's just an opportunity for us to hear what needs you have and think through if there are resources that we can create for you, at least as boilerplates, as templates, so that you can take it and make it your own and help your programs along. And then, you know, I think some of you heard, you know, Angie and the folks at Shawnee State are running, you know, a WISE information session at the beginning of May. And so we're gonna HHW, well, I am going to head down and share some, you know, a little bit about WISE, some success stories that we've seen from implementation. You know, Amelia, if you want to, you know, would like me to come out anytime to Youngstown, happy to go out to make the trip to support your programs in person in any way that we can. So HHW is always here as a resource as well.
Yay, thank
Just
you.
a quick question. So HHW, I mean, is this a nonprofit? Are these services provided to us at no charge? And if so, I mean, are you like under the OMWP? I didn't know if we can use any of that as match, like your time and your mileage and things like that, for our grant.
So we are written into, we have a sub grant from the scaling apprenticeships to support the Wise Pathways
Okay,
work.
so you're already covered under that then. Okay.
Yeah, so I
Gotcha.
don't think, Bernie, you would know, I don't think we're available for match, right? Our time.
That's right. Yep, because you're being directly paid
Mhm.
through the 2 grant.
Yep.
Okay.
But but we are here 100% to support your program as much as we can as a
Okay.
resource.
Thank you.
And so Amelia, did you have a question or a comment?
Nope, just saying yay. Glad to have any help I can.
And then our hope is that, we'll continue to facilitate these calls. So hopefully you found use out of them. So as topics come up, if you'd like to convene a learning community call, let me know. And we can get the doodles out, find time to convene and talk about your programs, see if there's any, any best practices that are coming out or any common challenges. The folks on the ground implementing the program, you all are going to be each other's best resources. And so want to build those connections and build this community as much as possible. So if you'd like to call a family meeting, let me know and we can get that on the books for everyone.
Thank you.
All right, so I think that's the end of my presentation. Anyone have closing thoughts, anything for the good of the order? Bernie, anything that's on your mind?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, and Alicia can weigh in on this, kind of bridging on what Amelia had planned for the 4th grade girls. We also feel that there's a lot of value in getting the WISE participants to have some hands-on activities relating to, to be honest with you, one of our primary focuses will be manufacturing at Lorain, because we're working closely with our Lorain County Manufacturing Sector Partnership. In fact, we're meeting with them next to talk about all of this and figure out how these manufacturers can get involved. And similar to what you guys are doing down in Shawnee at Shawnee State, and certainly your MVMC connections at Eastern Gateway too. So, Alicia, do you just want to just mention a little bit about maybe FabCab ideas that we have, or some of the stuff that you're doing with the electronics activities?
Yeah, so to tie in different activities to what the WISE participants are doing, because we didn't want them to come and just sit and go through curriculum and soft skills, we are going to have them doing some hands-on activities. And one of those is going to be in conjunction with what LCC offers as the FabCab. So the FabCab is all the technologies that it would take to have a fab lab all condensed onto a cart. So we primarily use the laser engraver or the 3D printers and the vinyl cutter. So they can do things with engraving wood, creating something 3D out of something that was already flat. So being able to take a 2D design, drawing it on paper, sketching it, and then creating it by cutting the pieces and assembling it. It makes for a really engaging idea of what could be in the industry. These sort of activities also then lead back to topics like welding, construction management, and then the circuitry that we do is really built around tying back into automation and robotics, electronics, micromechanical systems, things like that. So we invested in some simple breadboards. If you don't know what breadboards are, they're like little rectangles about this big that have wire metal stripping in them. And what you can do is you can place components run a sample circuit, test it if it's working, but then all those components can come back off and it's not like soldered on or stuck on. So it's a really good way to learn how to do a circuit before you actually try to make a circuit. So you can test if, the circuit's not right and maybe your LED blows. That's a really good example of like how you make sure that all of your negative is on one end of the circuit or all your positives on the other. We're also using things like microbits to teach basics to coding to get them more familiar with the idea of coding. I know microbits are sort of created to target a younger audience, but they're great for anyone who has no experience coding. So a lot of times you're going to have adults that have never even tested code, have never looked at coding, don't know what coding is. And microbits allow you to interact with a web browser based program and create simple drag and drop coding. And then you can even transfer that into the background HTML coding and see what that coding would look like on the computer versus your drag and drop. So it just makes it a little more realistic to them. And it gives them the concept and the idea like, hey, I think I can do this with a little bit of studying with a career track. I really think that I could do this. And so it just kind of brings it all down to a level where they believe in themselves. So that's a little bit about the activities that we're trying to promote here at LCC.
Great, thanks, Angie. Thanks so much for that overview, Alicia. If anyone has any questions or anything else, please, feel free to email me, send in a message to the group. So we'll make sure that everyone has access to Curio, that everyone has access to the Slack channel. These resources will be shared out after this meeting was recorded. Thank you for letting us record you. And so if you ever want to come back and relive the magic of this afternoon, you'll be able to do that. So if there's nothing else, I'm happy to give you 4.5 minutes back into your afternoon. I'm sure we could all use it. At least I could use it to go refill my water bottle before my next meeting. So thank you all. Thanks for joining. Excited for the progress of all of your programs and onward for Ohio's women. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.